Welcome to the Twa Penguin podcast, your weekly dose of uplifting conversations and inspiring stories.
Sponsored by.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Twa Penguin podcast where you find your voice. I'm your host, Twa Penguin. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you so much for your support. It does mean a lot to us. Not forgetting our partners and sponsors, Zimlove. Big up to Zimlove, and thank you so much for supporting us. I would like also to say, guys, please can you like, subscribe, and share our YouTube channels so that you are kept up to date with what will be happening on the Twa Penguin podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, today we do have a special guest all the way from the United States of America. We're going to be talking about his journey. We call it humble beginnings from the streets of some ghetto in Zimbabwe to the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome my guest, Derek. Well, nice. But then, Derek, I mean, what is it that really got you into tennis? Because if you look at it, if you're coming from, I'm sorry, I'm using this word, like if you're from the ghetto, like the way it's said in Zim, if you're from the ghetto, most of the ghetto youths, what they do is they actually play sports like soccer, they're into soccer and stuff like that. So how then did you get to choose tennis to say, you know what, I'm just going to play tennis?
Well, it was a couple of things, factors that contributed to that, conclusion. For
Mhm.
me, for starters, it's the people that were around me that I was in the close proximity to the tennis courts. That was a factor. My cousin was into tennis, and people around my area, my neighborhood, all had a tennis background of some sort. So they kept encouraging me that, if you want to at least get a shot at maybe playing tennis in the US or play tennis internationally or for the nation at least, you will have to, continue pursuing it. And also, personally, I also grew, into tennis as well, fell in love with the game, and it was kind of hard for me to let it go because I played soccer at the same time I played tennis growing up. So I ended up choosing to play tennis more because it felt like a safe place for me, so to speak,
Lovely.
as I grew up. Yeah.
To be honest, like, it's a very interesting story for, coming from Mufakose
Right.
in Harare, and then now you play tennis internationally. Okay, you're playing tennis in the United States of America, and sometimes I wonder if you guys are really given that recognition back home in Zimbabwe, because I've seen like we've got a lot of athletes who are doing well outside Zimbabwe, but most of them are not really recognized. So I feel like you've got an amazing story to tell, and I think there's so much inspiration if we're going to talk about the ghetto youths, because these days everyone goes into music. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with music, but I think you are a pillar of hope to say that even if you're from Fakos, you can still be that guy. Because if you play tennis international, like you're playing tennis in the United States of America, all the way from Fakos, that's a very interesting story. I think your story might relate to guys like Tatenda Taibu, because I remember Tatenda Taibu, when he was playing cricket, he was from Highfield.
Right.
Yeah. And then he went to play for the national team. You know what I mean? So you really have an interesting story to share, Derek. So what really had an influence for you to say you're going to play tennis? What is it that gave you that, what influenced you to play tennis? I mean, seriously, from Fakose to the United States playing tennis, what's the story right there, Derek?
Well, before I started playing tennis, there have been people who've been playing tennis from Fakose for a long time. Several generations. And there are guys who made it into this place that I'm at now through tennis, that they moved into these circles where they're playing college tennis, they're playing professional tennis, they're traveling all over the world playing tennis. And I was lucky to meet one of those guys. He's now in the US here, doing his thing in the US. His name is Andrew Mawir. And
Big up to Andrew. We need to big up to Andrew.
And I had actually one moment where he came by. He was in the US back then when I started playing tennis. He came by Mufakose High 2 where we were training, and he gave us a speech, so to say that you guys have an opportunity to be at the same, position where I'm at right now, where he's playing college tennis. He's playing tennis full time and also studying, having his studies being paid for by his abilities to play tennis and representing a school team. So from that point, it was a clear path for me that I had to take, where I realized, okay, I need to use my school and my tennis to get me into the US and get a free education through tennis. At the same time, I'm getting myself better at tennis and playing tennis at a higher level. So he was one of those factors. And also the coaches that were coaching us at that point in time, Coach Francis, Coach Lamia, Coach Simba Maronda, and the organizer of the academy, Tungesai, he was also part of that development program that we were going through. And he was ushering us into, different corners of the tennis world, especially in Zimbabwe, because we were just starting. We didn't know anything then. So they put us through different situations where we ended up seeing ourselves in high circles in tennis in Zimbabwe, meeting new people, and at the same time we're going through a phase where we're exposing ourselves to people. So it was those factors that led us to realize, oh, there's so much to this sport than we actually realized. So let's to continue playing and see where it leads us and how this will turn out for us eventually. And with the goal that we want to play tennis in the US, we just kept playing for a long time.
Well, that's interesting. So going back to Mufakose, in Mufakose, were you guys having like, was it an academy? Was it just at the school? Or was it an after school program? What was it like? And is it still there in Mufakose right now?
It was it started off as a program, an after school program based on the fact that we were in school pretty much the whole time during weekdays, and we didn't have time to play tennis afterwards. But during Saturdays and Sundays, there was a big program where it started off with at least 300 kids. And so we had to prove ourselves that we could stay in that program, because they had to cut down numbers as the weeks went by from when it started. And so that was the initial setup of the program, where we would play only on Saturdays and Sundays. But
Um,
as I went into high school, then we would play tennis from Mufakos High 2. So we would play tennis during the week and practice for the school team, and then play matches maybe on a Friday or Wednesday. But well, from when I started, it was just Saturday to Sunday strictly.
well, Derek, that's interesting. So, you know, are they still doing this in Mufakose though? Do you have an idea, like if they're still having this program or the academy? Are you still in touch, or do you have an idea what's going on? I know probably it's been many years ago, but what what's your take?
Yeah, there has been, actually, honestly speaking, there has been programs that have been initiated by various top level coaches in Zimbabwe that are based in Mufakose, and some of my friends as well have been helping out in those programs. But I think from last time I heard about the programs, it was, I think, 2023, last year, sometime last year, they've been trying to run the programs. I'm not sure right now if the programs are still running, but it is a concern that they want to get kids exposed to the game, and get them to build up into athletes, into competitors, into better people, growing up and getting that exposure where they can find vast amount of opportunities out there with what they can do with tennis.
Lovely. And when you were growing up, Derek, how then did you juggle school? You know, how did you juggle school and tennis? Because I think back in the day, our Zimbabwean parents were like, it's all about school. It's school, 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 nothing else. How then did you mix the two, school and tennis? Because now, I mean, you're playing at a competitive level at the moment.
All right.
It started well from somewhere in it. So how did you mix the two?
Well, it was pretty much that we had to focus on school. That was the number one thing to consider and focus on. That if you're doing well in school, you have a high chance of getting somewhere with tennis, in the sense that you're able to get scholarships in the US here. You're able to get into maybe universities in South Africa on a bursary of some sort, and just giving yourself a chance by being a good student in school. And for the most part, it was tough because we got so we got so hung up on the game that after school we'll just go home and drop our stuff and then come back, play tennis for the entire afternoon, and then go back home when it's getting dark. So it was a good mixture, but sometimes we would find that okay, we played too much of tennis and not do too much of schoolwork at the same time. But from my own personal experience, I played too much of tennis, whereby I didn't do so well in school from when I was doing high school. But then I had to do some classes after that. After I failed some classes, I have to retake some classes to get my grades up and be able to graduate and move up to A level as well. So it was a learning curve for me that it was kind of sleeping, and then I had to readjust myself and refocus on my goals.
Lovely. To all those who have just joined us, welcome to the Twa Penguin podcast, where you find your voice. I'm your host, Twa Penguin, and today we are privileged and honored to have an international tennis player. He's a professional tennis player based in the United States. He's all the way from humble beginnings in the ghetto of Mufakose in Harare, Zimbabwe. So we're just catching up with Derek to see his journey, how he left Zimbabwe.
So we come again.
I'm saying, so who are some of the people that you played tennis with in Zimbabwe? Are they still playing?
The list is so long, but I have some guys that I became close with even until now. I still communicate with those guys. Some of them are into coaching now. Some have stopped playing tennis since. But to mention a few, I had friends that were in Mufakose with me, and some that were out of Mufakose. But just to mention a few, there is Francis Chirinda, aka Frank. There's Desire Kurotwi Omunashe. There's Bernard Chipindu. There's Courage Marondera. There's Leroy Nyamandi. He's the son of Peter Nyamandi. He's also played tennis for Zimbabwe for a long
I
time.
remember the name, yeah.
Big time tennis guy. So those are some of the guys I played with, and some females as well that were also in that circle. A couple of them, some of them long since have stopped playing tennis, but some play just for fun now. But
Wow.
those are the six guys that I grew up playing with, and then came along also some younger guys that were a little younger than us. There's Andrew Kunaka. He's also here in the US. He's one of my best friends. There's Valentine Mnyawiri. He's a little younger than me, same age as Andrew. He's still in Zim, but plays tennis competitively still. And we have Nicholas Maduma. He's in the UK now. I'm not sure if he's playing tennis, but those are some of the guys that followed after my group that initially were in that starting program at Mufakose. So it was a lot of guys that started with us, but only a few kept on playing and stayed with within the game.
Yeah, but if you had to look at it, back in the day, I don't know how it will sound, but it was not really meant like a ghetto kind of sport where people can play it in the ghetto. So really, I'm still trying to find out like how did you guys manage all that? And also, just to add on to that, how was it like playing tennis in Zimbabwe? And who did you look up to when you started your tennis journey?
It it was competitive because we were just getting into the game, so you'd meet totally new faces. I remember the first time we went to a tournament. We didn't play though. We just went to watch how everything goes at a tennis tournament, and you'd see a lot of people with different, tennis gears, wearing, nice clothes, seeing like top level coaches, seeing some of the best players that have ever played and represented Zimbabwe. Those tournaments, they were then coaches. So it was a good experience, seeing all those people and being in that atmosphere where it's competitive, at a tournament setting. At the same time, I was telling myself that okay, this is what I want, and it's kind of nerve-wracking, being in such an atmosphere, for the first time. So I ended up telling myself that this is where I want to be eventually. This is the circle that I want to put myself into and work towards getting into and competing with these guys eventually. And talking about the guys that I looked up to, there was Martin Zua. He's also from Mufakose.
Yeah.
He eventually ended up coaching me
Shout
for a
out to
couple of
Martin. Yeah.
he ended up he ended up coaching me for a couple of years before I moved out of the country, and he's been a big part of my tennis, and he's helped me in a lot of ways that I could only mention, a few, but he has helped me and other people in a lot of ways positively, and he he's always gonna be, that person who put me in a position where I've competed with international guys, you know, in my
Interesting.
in my developmental journey. He's gonna be that person in that place for where he put me in a position to compete with international guys and help me, in a lot of ways.
I mean, if we look at tennis back home, I remember we had the Black family, Byron Black and Cara Black. Did you at some point kind of get some inspiration from them as well? Because I think I remember when they used to play like Davis Cup, they used to represent Zim as a family, and we're so proud of them. And now that you guys were also playing it from the ghetto, it's even more inspiring. It's a story that if we are to tell people today that we've got guys like yourself, we've come all the way from Fakose playing tennis and of getting scholarships, sponsorships to be in the United States playing professional tennis. I think that's a dream that every ghetto kid in Mufakos will be like, you know what? I just want to look up to these guys. I want to be like these guys because if you didn't know, you're actually an inspiration to all those ghetto kids. Because nowadays, like I said, most of the ghetto kids think it's about music, it's about probably playing football, but you can still make it from the ghetto and still play tennis.
Right.
So that's really inspiring, Derek. And then the other question that I have for you, Derek, is your transition from Zimbabwe, because I understand you were a champion in the Kingdom of Eswatini as well. Can you just take me through that journey?
Well, it was actually a funny story how I ended up in Eswatini.
Well, we are
So
all ears, mate. We're all ears.
so it was at this time where I wasn't playing tennis, for a little while. I think for like 3 weeks I wasn't playing tennis. I wasn't even going to the club to train or do hitting sessions like I used to do.
Mhm.
And so one day I got a message from one of the coaches that I was working with, and he sent me a message asking me, "Do you have a passport?" So I was like, why am I getting this message, right now? And I just responded, "Yes, I have one." Then I just left the message like that. Then he's like, "You need to come to the club today." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." He said, "There's something I have for you." So I got myself ready. I went to the club, and then he set me down. He's like, "There's something really big. If you consider taking this opportunity, I think it would be a good opportunity,
Yeah.
looking at the situation that you have right now going on." So he told me that there's this family in Swaziland. They're working with the top junior in Swaziland. They're looking for someone to work with their kid, full time as a hitting partner or touring partner, slash coach.
Or just like a
I was like,
personal coach?
personal coach, yeah, personal traveling, assistant or something like
Okay.
that. So I was like, okay, that sounds like a really good opportunity. And I told him yes, there and there. I just said, okay, I'll do it. I'll take it. Who do we have to talk to? So he gave me the father's number, and then I got hold of the guy and said, yes, we want to see how well you work. and can you please send us some videos of yourself playing tennis, and we want to see how you go about your game.
You have to prove yourself.
Right. So that very same afternoon, I went on the court with that coach. His name is Freeman Nokora. He's really helped me out a lot, and I owe that to him. For
What's his name again?
Freeman Nokora.
Big up to Freeman.
He's one of the coaches at our sports club that I worked with, and he's a big guy for sure. So I go on the court with him, working with his kids. We were working with the kids. He took videos of me. We sent them out to the dad with the kid in Swaziland. So he watched the videos during that night, and he say, "Okay, when can you come down to Swaziland? How soon can you come down?" So I was like, "When do you need me there?" He said, "As soon as you can get here, come down as soon as possible." So I was looking. That was on a Monday, right? And then okay, I told him, okay, I can leave Zimbabwe on a Wednesday. He's like, fine, that's good. So by Wednesday, I was on the bus to Swaziland, and things already changed within 2 days, And I found myself in Swaziland for the first time, traveling out of Zimbabwe for the first time, being by myself on such a long journey by myself for the first time.
Did you have left Zim by that time? It was your first time ever leaving Zimbabwe.
It was my first
Wow.
time leaving Zim,
Wow.
and I told myself, I have to do this at some point. I have to leave this place, and I have to step out of my comfort zone and do what I want to do with my life, And tennis was my life, is still my life, and will forever be my life. And I was excited, and at the same time, kind of, nervous about what's gonna come, with that.
You know, to all those who have just joined in, welcome to the Tour Penguin podcast where you find your voice. I'm your host, Tour Penguin. And please, can you subscribe, like, and share our YouTube channel, the Tour Penguin podcast. And shout out to our sponsors and partners, Zimlove. Thank you so much. We wouldn't do it without you. All right, guys, we've got Derek here, all the way from the United States. And Derek has been playing tennis from the ghetto of Mufakose, Harare. But now he's now playing tennis in the United States of America. And Derek is just sharing his journey with us, how it started and where he is now. Okay. So that's where we are, guys, to all those who've just joined in. So, Derek, for you to become a champion in Swaziland, in the Kingdom of Eswatini, how did you become a champion? Because you went there as a personal coach to some family's son, stuff like that. So, can you just explain to me or to us to say how then did you transition from being a personal coach and now also your personal goals, you becoming a champion in the Kingdom of Eswatini?
Well, I want to first say that they there is a good amount of concern with trying to get kids in Swaziland to play tennis,
Yeah.
and so they trying to put as many tournaments through to the kid as possible,
Right.
which is a very good thing. I really appreciated them trying to put those tournaments out there for the kids to participate in and get them to expose themselves to different players coming in and from players that are within the country too. And so then they hosted quite a bit of tournaments throughout the year. I think I played 4 tournaments in a space of 5 months.
Wow.
And the turnout with the numbers of people that come and participate is really good. It definitely can improve.
Was it just
because
locally?
It was locally then, yeah. They hosted locally held tournaments from that time, and I played in a draw of maybe 32 guys. So, in the men's section, you'd have 32 guys playing, or maybe 28 guys. So that was a good number looking at the local, position. So I played with local guys. I also played with the kid that I was training then, and the competition is really it's fair. It's not too bad. It's not too low. It's fair for local standard and so it kept me in that situation where I had to train intensely at the same time because I'm looking at playing at tournaments maybe in a 2-3 week, interval. So I had to still train as if I'm competing full time, even though I was working with the student with his parents, at that point.
Interesting. So then, Derek, the difference. Okay, how then did you end up? Because after leaving the Kingdom of Eswatini, how did you end up playing college tennis in the United States?
It was at a point in 2022 where a friend of mine, she's in the US here, she sent me a message one night. I was in Namibia then traveling with this kid, and she sent me a message saying, "Hey, dude, I don't know how this came to be, but I talked with my boss, and he's given me this idea that we need people coming in to work with us, and you're the person that came into my mind first." So she told me, would you consider coming to see how tennis is like here, working with us here in the US? So I was
Wow.
like, let me see, because I had to consider leaving my job and leaving everything that I had in Swaziland, and you know how everything was going well for me. I had to consider all that, but at the same time, I realized one thing, that this is this is a level up from where I'm at. So only that factor took me to a position where I didn't have to think anymore about that, but just to accept the fact that I have to step up and take this position. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it, without even thinking any further from the fact that I'm leveling up, I'm going up, from where I'm at. So I told her, yeah, let's do it. So she gave me a boss's contacts, and then we got in touch. He told me, okay, we need you such and such a time. Can you make it then? I was like, yeah, sure. I'll make sure I get my stuff ready, by the time you need me. And then, long story short, I got everything done, flew out to the US. I was, you know, pretty much just working with a few kids in New Jersey, but then I ended up coming back here to Iowa, where my friend was. This was over summer break of 2022, right? And then I visited my friend Andrew. I'm telling you, he was also playing at this same college I'm at right now. He's from Mufakose as well. So I was visiting him, spent a few days here, worked with the coach here. He liked how I worked with them, because I was also actually coaching the guys with the coach. So he was like, I like how you work with these guys, and I think I could use you in the team as well. Would you be interested in joining this team? I was like, what? I was surprised, because I never actually, see any any
I can imagine.
any opportunity coming out of visiting my friend here. So I was like, yeah, for sure. Then I realized, okay, this is my opportunity to actually play college tennis now. After having been not seeing that picture coming through for a long time. So I told him, yes, I'll take this offer you're giving me. So I have to fly back again to Swaziland to get an F1 visa, and then I actually ended up staying in Swaziland for 6 months instead of 1 month, because I got deferred. I couldn't get the visa done on time. I had to stay for 6 months. Then I ended up coming to the US to school in August 2023. So that was the whole transition, so to say. And now I'm playing here for my second year now at this college, and I'm soon to transfer to a 4-year university in a few months' time.
So, well, that's a story and a half, Derek. And to all those who've just joined us on the Tour Penguin podcast, I'm your host, Tour Penguin, and today we do have Derek. He's a professional tennis player based in the United States, from humble beginnings from the ghetto of Mufakose in Harare. So we're just talking about his journey from playing tennis in Mufakose to the United States. And this is something that most people consider unheard of, because normally if you're someone from the ghetto, I want to use this word, kumarokeshen, why is it is what it is. That's how they call it. Because if you're in Zimbabwe, mostly, like especially in Harare, tennis was back in the day was regarded as a sport played by the kids from the Brooks, Kuma Del, Waiza, Rana Hetfield, Jikoko, you know. But
And that's where most of the kids came from, actually.
You see, so that's why I'm saying you actually have a story to tell, because if you are actually coming from Mufakose, I never thought that actually we could have guys like yourself actually coming from places like Mufakose. No offense, I'm not saying anything bad about Mufakose. I'm just saying that if you look at most of the ghetto kids, Kutamba Bora, they play football and they do music. You know, they're really talented. We've got a lot of talented ghetto youths, you know. So you are actually one of them, and I'm actually proud to have you on the podcast because your story is so inspirational to a lot of ghetto kids. So, Derek, tell me, how is it then playing tennis in the US compared to the way you're playing in Africa?
Uh, it's competitive. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one word to sum it up. It is very competitive. People work hard to play at this level, at this high level. Even if it's even if it's college tennis, it's still competitive. You find that the majority of professional players right now in the US, the top level players in the US that are playing professional level, they came through this channel of playing tennis in colleges. And so you find that it's like a foundation that you're laying down to be able to play at a professional level, because you still need to play so many matches and put so many matches under your belt such that you find yourself competent enough to play at the next level, which is at the pro level.
Wow.
So people really need to work hard and stay focused and stay disciplined to be able to sustain, that graph that you want to climb and maintain playing at a high level.
So how do you then balance the two? If you're coming from that competitive, you know, like your sport is very competitive. How do you balance it with school and because you're playing at, you know, you're playing at an advanced level, top level, and then you got skill because school is hard as well. It's demanding. How then do you mix the two, Derek?
Well, it becomes some type of a cycle where your life becomes so programmed into maybe 3 or 4 things, whereby you wake up, you have to go to class. Soon after class, you're going to your practice sessions. If you have work, soon after practice sessions, you have to go to work. Soon after work, you have to do your schoolwork. So it's just those 4 things combined that make up your whole day-to-day life.
Quick question,
You find that,
Derek. Quick
yeah,
question. You said your friend was name is Andrew.
Andrew,
What's his name? Andrew?
Andrew Kunaka.
Um, Do you want me to just add Andrew so that we can talk just a little bit about
Yeah, yeah. I
you,
mean, if it's free, I'm sure you'd be able to. You'd be honored to join this, podcast and speak for himself, his experiences, and what he's all
was
about too.
was Andrew from the same ghetto as you as well?
Yeah, Andrew
Oh,
stayed. Andrew stayed 10 minutes from my house.
then don't spoil it. Let me see, Andrew. I'm just requesting you on the podcast, and I've sent you an invite to see if you are free to join Andrew, just to have a bit of an insight as well from your experiences in tennis. Okay. Yeah, I've sent an invitation to Andrew. It's not going through. It would have been nice to really have Andrew. Andrew, if you're free, just send me a request that you want to join so we can just also talk about your journey. I've sent you on my side. So I'm hoping we will be able to to aid you on the podcast as well, just to talk about your journey because you guys from Focus, yes, good. He wants to join. I've accepted him, and all right, thank you, Andrew. I've approved it. So yeah, there you go. I hope Andrew will be joining in shortly. Yes, it's adding Andrew. I mean, you guys, your story is really, you know, it's very inspirational. Okay. Yes, Andrew,
Hey, how are you?
welcome to the Tour Penguin podcast where you find your voice. Apologies if I caught you off guard, my brother, but I noticed that you chipped in. I was like, your name was mentioned a lot of times today on this podcast. And then when I saw your name watching, I was like, you know what? Why not talk to the famous Andrew himself?
Yeah, that's all right. I just came from practice, but yeah, that's all right.
How you doing, Andrew?
Good, and you?
Um, I'm blessed, man. Thinking of your tennis journey, Andrew. I understand you guys are from Formby.
Yes,
How has it been like? Because this journey for you guys, nobody expects tennis players to be coming from places like Mfombi. Because I mean, from the ghetto, we're expected to play football, we're expected to be doing Zim dancehall. So
exactly.
how was your journey like? What is it that inspired you and your journey from Mufakose to be where you are as a professional tennis player?
I would just say, I mean, the perseverance and like the consistency, to keep playing. Because I mean, me and Derek are one of the few that's, there was like a big group that was playing, and we are one of the few that managed to like keep playing. And then we eventually, got the opportunity to come here, but that was through us, like, keeping, like keeping up with the sport, and then we kept playing like we never stopped and stuff like that. We had a lot of people that like they just stopped along the way. It was that kind of thing of like, oh yeah, I'm just playing, but like where is he gonna get me, that kind of thing. But we just like kind of took it like, okay, we'll see where it gets us. Like we'll just keep playing and then see when the opportunity comes, and then we'll be able to grab it. But I mean, you gotta be ready. Whenever the opportunity comes, you gotta be ready. So I think we were ready for that.
Well, that's nice to hear, Andrew. And then looking at so the grassroots level, like in Zimbabwe, do you feel like do we have enough at the moment? Is I know like in A group schools they really try. How is it like if you've got any information, like let's say on the I don't know, do we call them the government schools or the ghetto schools? Do we have any information or on the grassroots level to see are we doing anything about sports like probably like tennis, cricket, rugby, those kind of sports?
Especially in government schools, I don't think we have enough support, for sports like that. Because I mean, it also takes a lot for sports like tennis. It's not like soccer. You can just get any old boots and then you can start kicking the ball. Tennis, like you need a lot of equipment, which is like expensive equipment as well. You're looking at rackets, you're looking at shoes, you're running out of shoes like after every like 3 weeks when you start playing like at a higher level and stuff like that. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So I mean, I was lucky enough, to go to Prince Edward, where we played with like the private schools and all that stuff. So that kind of helped me as well, because I'm like, getting both for one. So I'm paying like my fees for whatever, but I'm also getting like my education and my sport at the same time. And then also Derek like happened to play in Mufakose I too at a time where tennis was still getting some sort of support, which I don't think they do have now,
Yeah.
which makes it hard for the you know, upcoming athletes, even like the ones that want to get into the sport as well.
Oh, yeah, that's a sad thing. And
Yeah,
then you guys being outside the country, being in the United States, have you ever had any call outs from Zimbabwe to say, okay, we know you guys are out of the country. Can you guys probably help us with this? Like, okay, like probably developing at grassroots level or just being involved in anything that has to do with tennis back home. The reason I'm asking this is because I know as Zimbabweans we do have a lot of talented guys out there.
exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
so sad that some of them, like the reason why I even brought like Derek and you now is because most people don't even probably know about you guys, but you guys are, you are playing at top level, which I feel like it's not fair. You guys deserve your flowers when you still when you're still alive. We
Yes.
don't want situations where people talk like was when they is. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
I was just asking like whether you guys sometimes get that kind of recognition or the wanting input from you guys to say, look, this is where we are with tennis. What's your take, you guys? Where do you think we can improve? Or how do you get involved? Do they even involve you guys, the Tennis Association of Zimbabwe, stuff like that?
So before I left, we had this organization that we had started, like to kind of give back. Like in Mufakose, there was a program that we had started, and then we're like coaching the kids, especially on the weekend and stuff like that. So I mean, yeah, they still, get in touch and then just like let us know how we can help. But I mean, right now it's also like tough when we're in college, and then we're also like, trying to uh, you're trying to work and then pay for tuition and stuff like that. So it's like kind of hard. But I mean, whenever we get to a position where we can help, then yeah, then we will be able to like help and then like try to have more of those initiatives, to try and bring back not just tennis. Like there's a lot of other sports. If kids are playing back home, they can have opportunities. But I mean, here in America, you start seeing these kind of things when you get here, because you have track people that do track and field. They barely pay anything in America. So if you're like talented and then you're good in track and field sports like basketball, they're only looking at Americans, but there are kids out there like in Africa that play basketball. But the thing is, even when the coaches are looking, they're not looking, outside the country, because they just think like, okay, there is people that are good here in America already. But I mean, if you have someone who's exceptional, then you can have like a platform where they can showcase their talent, where they can see the videos and stuff like that, post their videos, and then they can get, the opportunity that we got, because we didn't have information. We had like to search it like for ourselves, like go deeper, search for information and stuff like that. And then I feel like most people, they don't have this kind of information. And if they do have this kind of information, it will probably help them to go on to the next level.
Oh, that's lovely. And then, Derek, you coming from Mufakose, just like Andrew, what would you say? I'll start with Derek, then I'll get to Andrew. Derek, what would you say to a ghetto youth in Mufakose who wants to play tennis, or what can you say to them?
Well, it's kind of a tough sport looking at the situation right now. But given the fact that there's initiatives like the ones we had starting up, I'll just suggest that they stick to that and find ways where they can still play, on a consistent basis, and eventually get support from their parents if they can, in whatever way that they can maybe move up to play at, clubs that are in, our sports club or Alexandra Sports Club or Ryan Sports Club, where it's consistent, the training sessions and the amount of help you can get from the coaches there. That's one thing I would suggest, just having that consistency with the game. Because once you stop playing tennis, and it's kind of hard, literally, to get back into it and perform at a better level again. So that's the first thing that I would say, and suggest, that consistency is key,
Yeah.
really.
Okay. And then,
So
cool.
and so I think I'd suggest that they stay consistent, get help, as much help as they can get, and maintain that for the longest time.
And then Andrew,
Yes.
just just the same question that I've asked Derek. What advice would you give to the ghetto youths, not just from Fakos, the ghetto youths of Mbare, the ghetto youths, those kids who want to play tennis, but they're in the ghetto, and because sometimes people feel like this sport you can't make it when you play it, but you guys are a living example that, I mean, from Mufakose to the United States playing tennis at the top level. That's dope. I actually, you know what? I give you guys props, gunshot to that one. You know what I mean? And you guys, you're a good example to the youth. You're really a good example that we can tell people like, there is Derek, there is Andrew. You know what I mean? So, what advice can you give to these little ones?
I would just say, just stay consistent. If you have a sport, if you have a talent, if you have something that you really can do, just keep on at it. Just keep working hard. Like an opportunity will come at some point. Like just use what you have where you are. I mean, don't have any excuses. Because when we used to have excuses like, oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. But then you find that there's actually people that actually don't have as much as you have. So, just use what you have where you are. And then whenever the opportunity comes, you have to be ready to take it. Because if you're not ready, I mean, the opportunity will come. And then because you're not ready, you're not able to grab it. But you must be ready whenever the opportunity comes. I mean, as long as you keep working hard, you keep doing your best and then just stay consistent. I mean, I think your time will come.
Thank you, Andrew. That's so informative. And then you guys now, before I let you go, what advice would you give, to some of our Zimbabwean parents? Because there are some parents out there who don't believe in sports, like who tell you that like from a Shona parent, inini mwanangu anacho chikoro nzvema sports azviite, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
advice would you give to parents? Because we've got a lot of talented kids out there, and some of the kids will even sneak out of the house to play sport, and the parents will never know that the kid is really talented in sport. So, what advice? I'll start with you, Derek, then I'll go to Andrew. What advice would you give to those kind of parents, Derek?
It's to have kids try both. You know, have them do both at the same time. You have a balance of both. I think that's a fair statement where parents allow their kids to play sports and also maintain, you know, a good school, you know, system where they're doing well in school. I think that is a good balance where they can maybe find themselves excelling in tennis or whatever sport it may be, or even do well in school. You find that colleges in the US here, they give scholarships to good students, even if you're not playing any sports, or even if you've never done any sports in your life, you can still get marital scholarship, you know, for just being a good student, and you study for free, yeah, for like 4 years and get a degree. Do whatever you want to do with it. So having a balance with school and sports is good. It gives you an edge, you know, with what you can work with eventually.
Interesting. Well, and Andrew, just on the same question that I asked Derek, what advice would you give to those kind of parents? Because not everyone is privileged to have parents who actually understand sports, especially from our older generation kind of parents. I think this generation of parents now, we do understand the importance of sports because I was privileged. I went to both Island Wilson and Churchill Boys
Yes.
High. So at Churchill, it was compulsory to play rugby.
Yes.
If you don't play or if you don't do sports, you was forced to go and support other kids who play sport over the weekend,
Exactly.
or you have to stay and support, and then you are the guys who lead in the war cry. Okay.
Exactly.
So, but then to the older generation of parents, what advice would you give them?
I would say, I mean, as much as like parents are now starting to understand it and then like they're starting to get into it, I feel like they must too, be educated to just let the kids do whatever they want. Like let them explore, try different sports because not everyone is academically talented. We have people that are earning a lot of money doing sports like around the world that don't have any educational background. If you look at the educational background, it shows, oh, this person like they stopped school whenever they were 13 or whatever. And I understand that it's tough coming from a place like Zimbabwe to tell parents, for their kids to focus on sports rather than education. But then you also look at people that are graduating, but they still can't find jobs. I mean, there's other opportunities out there, so you must just balance it up. Not saying like you should just focus on sports. You should also like balance your education and your sports as well. Because if you look at it like for you to come to America, yes, you still need your academics. Yes, you can be good at a sport, but you still need your academics. And then that way you can come here, you can study. Like I said, if you're doing track, easy. You can get a full scholarship. You're getting education, and then you're also participating as well at the highest level, for nothing. So I think it's not about just like focusing on sports, but give them a chance, to play sports, because the only way that they're good at it is if they try to do it. Then they can see if they actually have potential in the sport. So just let them try all the sports and then not focus on sports at the end of the day, but just try to balance everything, sports and academics.
Lovely. Gentlemen, it was really an honor to have you guys on the show. It's just like the reason why we do this is we need to tell the world and Zimbabwean that we've got talented Zimbabweans out there,
Yes.
and it's unfortunate that sometimes we don't, or the guys don't get the recognition that they deserve, if you look at it. And it's unfortunate because you guys be playing at the top level, being recognized in your various countries and colleges and stuff like
Yes.
that. But you'll be one of the top guys there. Back home, you are not used, and you find that we've got a lot of guys who play just different sports outside Zimbabwe, and the guys are doing well. And then if you look at some of the national teams, the guys that they play, you ask yourself like, but we've got guys playing this same sport in America, in the United Kingdom, in Australia, in Canada, why can't we involve those kind of guys? So this is the reason why I'm having this, and also just to have you guys to say, look, we need to give back to the ghetto youth to say, guys, look, don't think you're in Mufakose, you end there. No, look at us. We started where you are,
Exactly.
but with perseverance, you can be where we
Exactly.
are. So really, gentlemen, and in closing, guys, I just want you to tell the ghetto youth just to stay away from drugs, because you can't reach that level where you are, which doesn't matter drugs. So I'll start with Derek just to give that message. You give it, and then I just close the show.
Yeah, I would basically say this. If it wasn't for tennis, I think Andrew would agree with this. If it wasn't for tennis, we'd probably be doing drugs right now and maybe stealing stuff, living a really boring, poor life. But looking at the whole journey, it's really difficult to explain why we kept on playing tennis to someone, but we just did. There wasn't a specific like path that we were seeing. Okay, this is where we're going. This is how it's gonna turn out. But we just kept going, and we had that dream at the back of our heads that okay, we want to eventually play tennis in the U.S. But we just kept going. And I would say if someone out there has something they want to do with their life and it's not looking clear, just keep taking one step at a time each day, and eventually something will turn out.
Thank you so much, Derek. And in closing, Andrew.
I would just say, just the parents must keep encouraging the kids to play sports. Sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. Like it helps them stay occupied and then stay away from a lot of different stuff that people are getting into these days. Especially with the unemployment rates and stuff like that. That's back home. People tend to have excuses to say, "Oh, I did this because of that. I did this because of that. I just didn't want to live in the moment." But the thing is, you can be drunk today or you can do whatever, but then the next day, whenever you're not drunk anymore, the problem is still gonna be there. So you're gonna have to find a way to face it. So I just say kids must be encouraged to go into sports so that they stay away from troubles, and especially those ones coming from low income families as well. I would say if you're good at something, keep working hard at it. The opportunity will come, and then you also have to search for questions and answers. Do your research. How do I do this? How do I do this? I'm good at this. I'm good at that. What opportunities are out there for me? Stuff like that. Because when you're coming from these kind of places, you're gonna have to break the circle. Because if you don't break the circle, your kids are gonna be in the same circle. Your grandkids. That kind of stuff. So you want to be the one to break the circle for the generation to come and stuff like that. To change it. Because if not, it's like the same circle. Your kids are gonna be there. Your grandkids are gonna be there. It's gonna keep going, keep going, keep going. So you're gonna have to do something to change that. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. To all those who have just joined in or were tuned in, on the 12 Penguin podcast today, we had Andrew Kunaga and Derek Namanya all the way from United States. And these guys play professional tennis. These guys are coming from the humble ghetto of Mufakose in Harare, So if you know what I'm talking about, in the ghetto, people expect you to just play soccer. They expect you to play, to do music, but these guys made it through tennis. Tennis took them away from the streets, and now they are doing it professionally in the United States of America. So, guys, the ghetto youths, there is hope out there. Don't do drugs. If you are good in sports, just do what you're good at. Persevere, work hard. It will take you somewhere. Thank you so much to everybody who was tuned in, and gentlemen in the United States, thank you so much. Till we meet again, it's bye-bye for now.
Bless up.